It's your open source advocate, and I'm back with another video. And today we're going to talk about Navidrome, and that is a music streaming server. So there's lots of different ways to stream your music, and depending on what you're running, it may depend on what you want for music streaming. But I like the applications that actually allow for using a Subsonic client, which probably is using the, hopefully, open source Airsonic libraries. But if it's not, you can still use something like Navidrome with those things. But Navidrome, I believe, does use the Airsonic open source version, so that's really great. And it works with your Subsonic iOS and Android clients as well. Now, about a year, maybe a little over a year ago, I did one on Apache, which is really cool and really great. But recently I got an update to Apache and just things quit working, and I don't actually know why or what broke, because when I look at the logs, I don't see anything that indicates that something's wrong. It's just when I try to navigate to the page, it just doesn't want to load. So the nice thing is it's just a music library. It doesn't actually control my music. It's just a way of feeding my music out to my streaming devices or letting me stream it through the web page, things like that. So today I wanted to talk about another option, and I've got a couple of them. There's one called MStream, which I'll do a video on later, and then Navidrome. And Navidrome I've seen for a while, and people have talked about it quite a bit, and I thought, you know what, let me try it out, and actually I really like it. It's pretty great. One of the things with Apache that I didn't like was I could make playlists on my browser here, and it was great, but I couldn't export those playlists, and they didn't get picked up by my Subsonic client for some reason. With Navidrome, I've tried the same exact thing, and my Subsonic client sees them right away and loads them up. So it's got my playlist, so I can sit here on a big screen and create my playlist that I want, and then it sees those on my iOS device, which is really great. So today we're going to go through a few things. We're going to first just get the Dockeer-Compose set up to install Navidrome, which is really a very simple basic file, which is great. Then we're going to look at the user interface just to make sure it's running. Then we're going to use NGinX Proxy Manager to create a reverse proxy so that when I'm away from home, I can still access my music back here on my home network. That means you need just a few things. You need Docker installed on the machine you want to run Navidrome on, and Dockeer-Compose installed on the machine you want to run Navidrome on. Now, depending on your setup and your network and things like that, you may also want to install NGinX Proxy Manager on the machine that you're going to run Navidrome on. So NGinX Proxy Manager runs as a Docker container, which is great, but really inside of your network you only want one NGinX Proxy Manager running on one machine, and then you let that machine really kind of hand out the traffic around your network to other devices. So if you already have it running somewhere, you don't really need to do that part, and you can kind of skip the next section. And if you're wondering, the sections always show up in the player bar down here, so I put in timestamps and you'll see sections, so you can just kind of hover over it and you'll see little breaks in it. So if you hover over each section, it'll tell you what that section's about, so you can move around pretty easily through the video as well. So we're going to get into the installation and how to make this thing run right after this. I want to say thank you to all of my patrons over at Patreon and my subscribers on YouTube. Thank you so much for all of your support. I love doing this channel. I love making this media and this content for you. I hope you enjoy it as well. I do post all of the videos now over at Patreon after one of my patrons made the suggestion, and I don't know why it didn't dawn on me before that. But if you're interested in seeing them through Patreon and getting notifications through Patreon instead of through YouTube, or hoping that YouTube's algorithms happens to show it to you, jump over and become a supporter on Patreon, patreon.com. I've got the links in the description and the show notes. I appreciate your support. Thank you so much. So the first thing out of the gate, I want to talk about Navidrome Community. So up here at the top, if you go to their main navidrome.org page, and I'll have that link in the show notes in the description. If you go to Community, right here they've got articles on how to install this and how to get it up and running. Now I didn't use these. I kind of went and figured it out myself a little bit. But they've got links to their GitHub page up here as well, so you can jump over to GitHub and see what's going on with Navidrome, and you can jump in and be a participant in actually making Navidrome better if you want to. And anytime I talk about open source software, they most likely have a GitHub or a GitLab or something set up somewhere where it's public and you can access that code and download it for yourself. And if you're a coder or a programmer or a developer and you're looking for a really cool project or something you want to work on, any of these projects that I show you are definitely worth your time, in my opinion. If you're looking for a way to get better at something or learn something new or just contribute back and be a part of something really big and awesome, check these projects out. Get out there and help, support them in some way. Maybe you're just somebody who's really good at testing things. Get out there and give it some testing, and then give them some really great feedback on what your setup is like and what your system is and how you're trying to use the system and exactly what steps you took to make a problem happen. And then make sure it's repeatable so that you can see if they can fix that bug, because helping them point out bugs and helping them find things that are defects helps them improve the software for everybody else over time. So that's another way that you can contribute to open source software. Alright, let's get into the installation here. I want to show you real quick what Navidrome looks like in my setup. So I've got it set up already on my own system. So you do get login, and you get different people's logins, which is great. So you can create different logins for different users, and they can each kind of have their own playlists and things like that. But you can also have shared playlists. Now you can see I don't have a lot of my metadata set up yet in this library that I'm using, but I've got a few things set. Now I can't play most of these because they're not, you know, there's somebody else's music, and I don't want to get a strike on YouTube for doing that. But you can see I've got some podcasts that show up in here as well. So it's really kind of cool and pretty great. And over on the left, you've got navigation. So you can just jump down and just see songs. And then you can jump down and see the playlists that I've created here. So if we go down to playlists, you'll see I've got just a couple of playlists. But then if I click into my playlists, it'll show me all of the songs in my playlist. And I can reorder these songs in the playlist as well, which is really nice. So if I grab that and move it down, it moves down in the playlist. So if I grab Motown Philly and move it up to the top here, to the second spot, you'll see it just takes a second, and then it reappears up there in the second spot in the playlist. And now I've got a really great way to organize my playlist the way that I want to. And then, of course, as I make those changes, when I open up my Subsonic player, whatever app you happen to choose for that, I use iSub on the iPhone, and it works really well. I like it. It's very easy, very clean, simple interface, very nice. So it does pick up my playlist, which is great, and I can just start playing my playlist. Now it does stream, but it does also give the option to download the songs and have them stored directly on the device, and so you can do offline mode as well, which is pretty cool. Now there's lots of different Subsonic apps out there. Go find the one that you like the best. You don't have to use the one that I picked. So again, you've got artists here, so you get a list of all of your artists, and then it pages them out. So you can go down through the paging here, and then the same way with songs. You can just really list all of your songs here, and just you can see that it's paged out as well. And really, if you're trying to create a playlist, you create the playlist first. So go here, and we're just going to add a new playlist. And we're going to call this Super Great. And see, so here you can say this is public or this is private. So if I change this to private, I'm the only one who's going to see it. Nobody else could access that playlist. And then other people can have their own private playlist that way, and you're not seeing everybody's playlist. But if you have one that you really like, you can make it public and everybody can see it. So I'm going to save that playlist, and you can see it shows up here in the list of playlists. Now if I go to songs and I say, you know what, I want to add this song. So you just check the songs, which is really nice. You can check as many songs as you want. So you can check all of these songs. And then up here at the top, you see you have these kind of mass actions. So I'm going to say add to playlist. And then you just pick the playlist you want to add it to. And you can pick multiple playlists at the same time. You don't just have to add it to one playlist at a time or anything. If you don't want to and you made a mistake, click the X. You can just get rid of them. But here I can add those to my super playlist. And then just click on add. And now I've just added all of those songs to that playlist at once, which is really great. It's not a one at a time kind of thing. And if we go click, we'll see there's all of the songs that I just picked for my playlist, which is awesome. So you have different things where you can say, you know what, play things in a mixed order, play them random, things like that. I mean, you've got so many different options inside of here. It's just really a great little system. I think it's so far it's been really terrific for me because I really do like to sit and listen to my music while I'm working on stuff. A lot of my work in my full-time job is really me reading and researching and writing and doing documentation. So having music in the background for me is really nice, just as a nice noise distraction from anything going on outside my office. So I really love these applications. But this is Navidrome, so that's a very quick overview of Navidrome. Now let's get into how to install Navidrome. So the first thing I want you to know is you need to have Docker and Dockeer-Compose installed. And then if you're going to use NGinX Proxy Manager, you need to have that as well. I've got a GitHub repository out here, and I'll have this linked in the show notes in the description. And you can grab one of these scripts depending on what version of Linux you might be using, and basically get Docker and Dockeer-Compose installed. If you don't already have it installed, these scripts will help you install it very, very quickly as long as you have one of these versions of the software that I support. Now, if you'd like to add to these, please feel free to pull this down, copy one of these scripts, make the appropriate adjustments for your distro or OS. And when you've got it working, just do a pull request for me, and I'll pull it in, and we'll have more distros covered here than we have today. So I did make an adjustment to one of them. I took the Ubuntu 2004, and I also created one that does NGinX Proxy Manager on top of that. So if we click in, you can see the code here. It's just a bash script that kind of gives you some comments, but really just does an update, and then it says, let me go get the Docker CE stuff that I need, and then let me go get Dockeer-Compose after I install that. You know, very, very basic. It just goes and says, let's install Docker CE here. So I go get the repos, I go make sure everything's up to date, go get Docker CE, and then we're going to go and add ourselves to the Docker group, which is great because then you don't have to use sudo. So you log out, log back in after all this finishes, and you don't have to use sudo anymore for Docker. And then it goes through and it does Dockeer-Compose install. And then down here, it says, let's also set up NGinX Proxy Manager. So it pulls in a default, which I just copied this straight from the NGinX Proxy Manager website for the quick setup, the default Dockeer-Compose file. It pulls that in, it creates a folder, puts it in there, and then it runs Dockeer-Compose up. And basically, once that's finished, it tells you here's the default credentials. You need to go and get everything started and change those credentials. But it's very quick, it's very easy, it's a single script, and you run it and you're done. So there's a very quick way on how to do that, and I've got video out there on how to do that as well. So if you need that, I'll have that linked in the description as well. I've already got Docker installed, but I did want to show you my music library here. So this is the path that we're going to use when we set up this Dockeer-Compose for our music. So it's kind of a long path, but this is what's running on my Proxmox box inside of my Ubuntu VM. So I'll just do an ls, and you can see here's all of my music. So we've got everything there that I'm going to be setting up. Now this is not all of my music, but this is a small list of music that I've pulled out to have set up on this music file. So I'm going to clear that out, and I've got another system open here, and I'll make that a little bit bigger. So right now you can see we don't have a Navidrome folder, so I'm just logged into the home root directory area for my user, the home directory of my server. So if you're going to do this, make sure you're logged into that server, SSH in, or be directly on the server, whichever you need. I'm just going to make the font a little bit bigger here. So I'm going to clear that out. First thing we're going to do is make a directory called Navidrome. We're going to cd into that directory. And you can see there's nothing in there. Now we're going to make a file called docker-compose.yml. Just like this. And I'm going to use Nano as my editor. Feel free to use Vi or Vim or Emacs or whatever you prefer. It's fine. It doesn't matter what editor you use. Just use an editor that'll let you put in plain text. We're going to call that docker-compose.yaml. And I'm going to come over and just grab the file name. So I'm just going to come over and copy the Docker-Compose file that I'm using. Alright, so I've pasted in that code here. We've got version 3.3 for Docker-Compose, and then we've got the image, which is this one, and it's Navidrome latest. And then we've got the ports that we're going to be forwarding, which is 4533 on the host to 4533 on the container. If you need a different port because you already have 4533 in use on your host, then you can change this port number on the left side of the colon, and that's the host side. Just remember what you change it to because you'll need that later. We've got some environment variables here. So we're going to say the scan interval is every 30 minutes. It's not going to scan constantly. It's going to scan about every 30 minutes for new things that you're putting up. You can change this to 5 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever you want, but just note that that's going to be a little bit heavier on your system and CPU. And if you have a lot of music, that scan could take a while. So you may even want to make this longer, like every hour or every 12 hours, things like that. But just be aware, it's the Navidrome scan interval, and I've got it set to 30 minutes by default. The log level is going to be info, so you can change this from info to error to warning, things like that. I'm just going to leave it at info for now. And then the base URL you can set if you want to. I have left it just as an empty string. It doesn't seem to affect the performance, so I'm just going to leave it like that. And then we've got a couple of volumes that we're going to map here, which is one is ./data, which means in the current directory where the Docker-Compose file's at, add a folder called data, and then map that to /data inside of the container. And then here is path to your music here, and that's what we're going to change. And then we're going to put that as /music, so that's where it's going to basically map that inside the container. So we're going to come here and we're going to just change that folder. And that's going to be /mount for me. Now this is going to be whatever your path is to your music. I'm going to go to /mount /video /arr /data /media and then /music. This is where I have the music on my system. I know this is pretty long, but if you see my video on the R's, you'll know why this is where it is. But it's there, and I've got it set up, so it's ready to go. So I'm just going to hit Control-O to save, and then Control-X to exit. So now I'm going to do make directory data. That one we just needed right here. It's done, and then we're done. Now we can run our Docker-Compose up. So we're going to do Docker-Compose up -D, and we're going to let that run. It's going to go pull down Navidrome. And it's fast. It's a very, very small application, which is great. It really takes up almost 0 resources. And it's pretty much done. So that's awesome. We're going to go into our browser here. And we're going to go over to our IP address. You'll want to go to the IP address of your server. And then if you didn't change the port, it'll be 4533. If you did change the port, you'll need to also change that port here. And there it is. There's our default login screen right there for Navidrome, which is great. And it says here, you know, create a username, create a password, confirm your password, and then create your admin user. So this is going to create your admin user on the first go around, which is awesome. So that's pretty much set. Now, if you want to use this just on your internal local network, you're done. You can get one of those apps on your Android or iOS phone, and you can basically just set up this address in that app, and when you're on your local network, you'll be able to hit your Navidrome server and stream your music, and you're really finished. Now, if you want to have access to this from outside of your network, then you're going to want to set up some extra stuff, and that's the part we're going to get into next. We're going to set up NGinX Proxy Manager to proxy traffic through our network and to our Navidrome server. So I'm going to create a username here that's different from my other server so that we can prove that this is the server that we're setting up. But I'm going to call this my demo person, and we're going to just give it a password here and twice, and we're going to create that account. Now this is going to load up my music just like it did before. You can see that it's done that, but there we go. We're set up with Navidrome. It's already scanned my music library. You can see it's got multiple pages worth of music here, which is really great. Alright, so this is an original song by me, so if YouTube strikes me, it's kind of weird, but you never know if it sounds too close to something else. It's not intended. But I'm just gonna hit play so you know that it will play. Alright, that's plenty of that. Hopefully you could hear that just a little bit. I mean, it's not the best way to set it up. I've just got it playing through a speaker. Alright, so it does play. Everything's working there. Now we want to get set up to actually be able to access this from the outside. Now if you haven't set up NGinX Proxy Manager, again, I've got videos on how to get that set up. Go check those out. But if you do have it set up, we're just going to open it up here. So I'm going to leave this kind of blown up. I'm just going to go into my, my proxy host section here. We just click on Add Proxy. We get this window. So we're going to call this new ND. And I'm going to use this for my home domain. And I have a wildcard set up on my domain, so it has basically a star that says anything.routemehome.org, point to the address I've given it. So it'll come here automatically, which is great. Now this is running on a different server on my network, so I have to give it the actual network server IP address, which is 192.168.7.51. And then it's running on port 4533. There we go. I'm going to tell it cache assets, block common exploits, WebSocket support, and publicly accessible. Now, if you're running this on the same server as you're running NGinX Proxy Manager, you don't have to use the server IP, but instead you can use your Docker IP address for the Docker gateway. The third option is if you're running NGinX Proxy Manager on the same server as Navidrome, and they are both running in the same network that you created inside of Docker, the same Docker network, then you can use the container name for Navidrome here instead of the IP address. I'm not going to go into that today because that's not how I'm running it, but just a few different options for how you can do this. Today I have to use this IP address and the port number, which is fine. I'm going to hit save. And right here we have new nd.routemehome.org, so I'm going to click on it. Alright, we've got Navidrome up and it's ready, so we're just going to put in my demo person and the password that I created earlier. And we are logged in. So now we're going through the actual URL that we created instead of going through just an IP address. Now this is not secured yet. You can see up here that it's not secured. So we want to close this tab for a minute. Go back into NGinX Proxy Manager. We're going to go into that same setup that we just created. We're going to click on the three dots and click on Edit. We're going to go over to SSL and we're going to say I want to request a new certificate. I want to force SSL so that users can't go to the non-SSL by choice. I'm going to go ahead and click on I accept, make sure my email address is filled in, and I'm going to click on Save. It's going to go out and challenge and ask Let's Encrypt to challenge it, and then Let's Encrypt will give it a certificate, and if this box disappears with no errors, we should be set. So it's gone, no errors. And we're going to click one more time. And here's our Navidrome setup, and now we can see we've got the lock for SSL, so we've got our Let's Encrypt certificate, and we should be able to log in without any issues. So this is going to be my demo person, and the password I created. There we go. So now we're logged in and we're using an SSL encrypted domain instead of our local IP address, which means now I can set up this address, the new nd.routemehome.org, and log in through my Subsonic client on whatever device I'm using, and it doesn't matter if I'm at home or if I'm away. I can stream my music that way, or I can download the music when I'm away to play it offline, those kind of things. So really we're all set up. This is very straightforward. I really like Navidrome. It's a great application. I'm really excited about it. And the next one I'm going to show as well, MStream, is really a cool application as well, so I'm excited about that one too. I hope you guys will enjoy this. If you did, like, subscribe, tell your friends about it so they can come along on the journey with us, and I'll talk to you next time.